Well, hello everyone. My name is Mike Tholfsen. I'm a product manager on the Microsoft Education team. And so that means I work with the engineering team to build some of the things that you're seeing, but I also work with lots of schools all around the world and in the United States to listen, work with students, work with teachers, and then bring those insights back to the team. And I'm going to be talking a lot about inclusive classrooms and some of the things that we're doing specifically inspired by dyslexia, but as Josh mentioned, just helps all students and all people. And just actually, I was lucky enough to get a little tour of the school before I got here today. I love this. It was like a little mural on the stairwell down from the founder, David Skank. And I also got a personalized tour from Ellen, where'd she go? Ellen Hill. And so Ellen gave me a tour. I said the library was fantastic. It's a beautiful library, beautiful school. And then music teacher Eric's classroom. Really cool. So thank you for the tour. It's a wonderful school. It's the facilities and the focus are pretty incredible. And I see a lot of schools, and I was quite impressed. Now, in terms of Microsoft's mission, as we mentioned earlier, our mission is to empower every person on the planet to achieve more. And our education mission is to empower every student on the planet to achieve more. And that message itself, empowerment and that's in our mission. It's part of our new CEO's mission, and it's from the top down and also from the bottom up. And so I like to say it's not empower 90.3% of the people on the planet. It's not to empower 97%. It's to empower all of them. And just as a background, to set the stage, this is a large-scale study that was done across the United States, 14,000 teachers by Scholastic. So almost 3/4 of classrooms have 4 or more reading levels, and sometimes more than that. Almost 3/4 of classrooms have 1 or more special education students in the general education population. Over half of classrooms have 1 or more non-native speakers, or English language learners as they're called sometimes. And on the flip side, the 4 educators that were up here, amongst all that diversity in the classroom, up to 50% of educator time can be spent on working with these different diverse student needs. And that's, if you have 150 students in a public school across 5-6 classes, and you're expected to personalize, that is impossible to do. Unless maybe the technology can help. It can't solve the problem, but that can help amplify what the teacher's trying to do. So the way Microsoft, this is at a high level, the way we think about inclusion and equity. First off, how do we enable students to gain independence and grow their potential? How can we enable every educator to reach every student? That's what they want to do. Sometimes they'll need some assistance with technology. And that at a school system level, I mean, luckily, the Skank School is fantastic here, but if you go out to a lot of public school systems in this country, as we've heard a little bit of, they're trying to, at scale, enable inclusion and equity. It's in part of every school system's mission that I talk to. It's just that they sometimes have struggled doing that because it's a hard problem. And so how can our platform help with that part of that vision that they're focusing on? From a pure accessibility standpoint, this is how Microsoft, across the company, this is not an education thing, although it applies to education, we're really deeply focused on accessibility and inclusion. And there's many categories to accessibility. Historically, many people focus on vision, maybe deaf and hard of hearing. I mean, honestly, the learning side doesn't get as much focus. Dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, neurodiversity, autism, ADHD. So we have a set of technologies that we've built into our mainstream platforms. And this has been a really, really big push in the last few years. And the thing I hammer on these 4 things over and over again, and you're going to hear me say them again tonight: built-in, mainstream, non-stigmatizing, free. And that's how we think about our platform. And we're a scale company. If you've heard the term, we have large scale at Microsoft. And so we like to think we can help at scale. Right? We're not just going to help in the United States. We're going to help in every country in the world is our goal. Now, from an education side, I talk a lot about the inclusive classroom. And so what does that mean? This is the way that I and my group defines it. It's made up of 4 components: reading, writing, math, and communication. So I like to say, when you talk to some school districts, as soon as you start to go deep in saying the words accessibility, they're like, oh, we've got some people that handle that over here. We're over here thinking about these other things. And so those topics up there, guess what? Every school cares about these things. And when you use inclusive design, that's what they're going to care about. It's going to help all students with reading or writing or whatever it is, and it benefits all. So reading. So Beth mentioned, just as a backstory, you're probably thinking, why is this guy from Microsoft talking about dyslexia and they're talking about reading? Like, what's the backstory? A lot of people ask us that. The backstory is we had a hackathon about 3.5 years ago. Raise your hand if you know what the hackathon is. Ever heard that term? Some of you, Genius Hour for kids, where for 1 week out of the year, every Microsoft employee can work on whatever they want for a week, anything you're passionate about. And with anyone else across the company, just form virtual teams and build stuff is the idea. So I've been working in education technology a while. Now, I actually don't have a background deeply in dyslexia historically, but I got together with a group of people who said, let's take the latest science and research around reading. There's a speech pathologist, there are reading PhDs, there's researchers, accessibility experts, and we said, let's build a little add-in. At the time, it was a prototype, so it wasn't fully working. But we took a lot of these technologies around existing science and research around reading, and we put them into these tools that initially, the set of tools we call learning tools, Microsoft Learning Tools. And particularly, there's something called the Immersive Reader that was the key part of this project. And that's what I'm going to show, because what we've done is we've worked with a lot of teachers and students all around the world. Let me gather my mouse here. I've got this podium that is a music stand, so it's not the most natural of demo surfaces, but we're going to adapt. So, going to give a test for the audience. It's a hard test. Raise your hand if you've heard of Microsoft Word. Raise them high. All right. All right, good job. Now it's going to get harder. Raise your hand if you knew there's a fully free version of Word available in a browser, in the web, to every human on the planet. Free Word in the browser. Where'd all the hands go? I see and Beth doesn't count because she works at Microsoft. There's like 5 people. See, so parents, students, every person has available. This thing I'm showing is not razzle-dazzle, charge a lot of money. I have to always say free, because Microsoft has this legacy of people think Office is something I pay a lot of money for. This is free web Office. I'm just saying it again. I'm going to go to the View tab and hit this button called the Immersive Reader. And I'm going to walk through what you're going to see. This is the thing that initially was born in the hackathon project. So first off, we abstract a lot of the user interface. We call this focus mode. At the bottom, there's this nice play button. And if I hit play,
the study of Earth's landforms
it has built-in text-to-speech and word and line highlighting, which is not revolutionary, but guess what? Built-in, mainstream, non-stigmatizing, free. I can change the voice speed, make it slower, make it faster. I can choose a male voice or female voice, pretty standard stuff. I can also change the way the page looks. So we know from research there's something known as visual crowding. Who's the visual crowding? People know about that in the audience? There's got to be some set of people. For some folks, when you reduce visual crowding, it can help with focus and reading speeds. And so if I click increase spacing here, the line, letter, and words space out a little bit, let the text breathe. I can choose different background colors. Some people prefer different background colors when they read. And these are tuned for accessibility. There's many choices, so I can go to town and find the color that I might like best. I can also make the text much bigger. So some people, some dyslexics, prefer short line mode. Some early readers prefer short line mode. Some non-native speakers or people with vision impairments. Doesn't matter. I can choose whatever works for me. But now we're going to get into some of the fun stuff. So on the grammar options, people here are familiar with breaking words into syllables. And so using our cloud technologies, if I click on the word syllables, it'll break those words into syllables when I click. Or highlighting parts of speech, like the nouns and verbs and adjectives. I can click on verbs, adjectives. The adverb doesn't get enough respect, so we even give adverbs in there. I can show labels. So you can see I've got the nouns labeled, the verbs, and adjectives. And guess what? I get to personalize. So as a student, I'm independent. This is non-stigmatizing. This person might use some of the things, and this person might use others. Guess what? We're all just using Word. So it's pretty non-stigmatizing. If I want to change the colors, great. I can make the nouns purple. It's very easy to personalize. Now, the other thing we've got, who here knows, raise your hand if you know what the reading ruler is. It's where I might cut out a little rectangle and slap the paper. So ADHD and dyslexia, pretty common together. It might be just to really focus on that line. So inspired by the real-life reading ruler, if I go to line focus, I can get a reading ruler. And I can hit play.
Geography.
And
Landforms can be
it
mountains
automatically
and
scrolls, so
valleys.
my eye doesn't have to sort of
They
track
can
all over the
also be
page.
glaciers or rivers.
I can scroll it manually, so I can move my reading ruler with the arrows over on the right. I can choose 3 lines or 5 lines. So here's what's interesting. We have students with cerebral palsy who use the reading ruler. It helps with eye focus. We didn't design it for that necessarily. We have a student that recently had a middle schooler, she had a concussion. I got a mail from this educator saying she uses line focus because she can't read during a recovery period unless she's got this focus on. So ways that we didn't initially plan for that are working. We also have the ability to get a picture dictionary. So clicking on
Rivers.
different words,
Rivers. Rivers.
and now I can hear the word, I can see the word, I can
Valleys.
look at the syllables broke. Again, I can do this myself independently. And most recently, we also added translation. So, I'm speaking to an audience who's familiar with dyslexia. I like to joke, just because you speak Spanish natively and English is your second language doesn't mean you're also not dyslexic, right? So that's like double the fun at that point. And I can turn on by word, for example, and we've got 60 languages. I know Robin would probably ask me as international, hey, is this just English? Well, of course not, Robin, 60 languages. All we have is Afrikaans right now. We're working on other languages. We don't have Zulu. But we have many languages. And so if I turn on by word, now maybe I'm going to go click on earth, and I'll get earth.
Earth. Tierra.
And I can hear Spanish.
Earth. Tierra.
And now maybe I'm going to go and translate the entire document into Spanish. And so I translate into Spanish, and everything changes. Syllables, parts of speech, nouns, text-to-speech.
El estudio de las formas terrestres de la Tierra se llama geografía.
And at the top, I can click on original, if I want to hear English again, and I can go flip back to Spanish. So now I can compare and contrast, and again, that can give me independence. So that's just plain Jane free Word that most people didn't know about. And it's there today, and it's not just in Word. It's built into OneNote, which is our digital binder, which is also free. It's built into Microsoft Teams, which is our classroom solution, which is also free. It's built into Outlook. It's built into the Edge browser. So here I am in our browser, which is free with Windows 10, Wikipedia. I can right-click on anything in the web and just hit read aloud.
Coliseum could hold.
And I get the word and line highlighting.
Between 50,000.
So no add-ins, no doodads, no special teacher training. It's just the browser on a web page. Same thing with PDF files. So PDFs, pretty common. Edge browser, I can right-click on any PDF and just hit read aloud.
Leveling the playing field with Microsoft Learning Tools.
So building this into mainstream Office, into mainstream Windows, and designed inclusively. So whoever wants to use it can. If you don't want to, then don't use it. And the other thing, since I have the browser up, I'll just show briefly. So this is the actual course, the Dyslexia Awareness in partnership with Made by Dyslexia. This is what 75,000 educators in the last few months have gone through. And there's a badge you get, there's the videos, there's the intro video from Richard Branson, there's different modules. What is dyslexia? I can't remember your name in the front, but I remember you from the video. Orlando Bloom highlights dyslexic strengths, dyslexic challenges. And so there's a whole module, there's reflections, there's some questions. And I've talked to many educators who have done this. And I'm in rooms presenting to people quite a bit, and I'll ask in a room full of educators, who here learned all about dyslexia in teacher college? And guess how many hands go up? Like 0 to 1, maybe. And so many educators will see this and say, oh my gosh, I feel like, not that they're an expert, but they went from nothing to now I kind of get the basics and understand and have more empathy and awareness, and maybe I'm curious to learn more. And so these are great courses that we've planned out, and with Kate and Made by Dyslexia, we plan on doing more of them. And what's great is all it takes is a couple teachers in a school to plant a seed, and all of a sudden, oh, the other teachers start doing it, and all of a sudden it can spread over time. And so this is something that the largest education technology conference in the nation, ISTE, for those of you who have heard of that, it's in Philadelphia this year. Made by Dyslexia is going to go in the booth, and we're going to be evangelizing to a whole lot of teachers is the goal. One more thing I'll show in the Immersive Reader as a demo here. This is called Microsoft OneNote. We talk about executive functioning, we talk about ADHD, we talk about dyslexia. OneNote is a digital binder, like a trapper keeper. It's designed to be a binder. It's very popular in education. It's free. And for those of you who think Microsoft people only talk about Windows, 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 This is on Mac, it's on iPad, it's in the browser, it's on Android, it's on my iPhone. So these products are available everywhere, not just Windows. If you have Chromebooks, great, works in a browser. But this is OneNote, digital binder. Very popular with dyslexic students too, because they don't lose stuff, everything's in one place, it's right there, I can search for it. But the power of this also is teachers and students, any picture you take or any screenshot you take and put into OneNote, this is from Harry Potter book. So we run optical character recognition. So if I hit that Immersive Reader button, that book is now converted into the Immersive Reader. And all those things we talked about, nouns, verbs, text spacing, let's just go crazy and let's just convert Harry Potter page into Spanish and then just read it out loud.
Su progreso, su cabeza girando sobre su cuello largo.
So what this means is universal access of content, right? We have students who, with an iPad, will take a picture, put it right in, and in real time be able to access this text and content that maybe before they couldn't. And so, again, built-in, mainstream, non-stigmatizing, and free. So I've demoed some stuff here, but I like to always show, I'm going to show now a video. And it turns out this video, very timely, was made in Georgia a few years ago. Holly Springs, I don't know if people are familiar with Holly Springs, fairly local. But these were some of the very first students who early on after that hackathon started using Microsoft Learning Tools in the classroom, and I think it's a great story to hear directly from the kids.
The true purpose of education is to create possibility.
It was a little hard for me. People laugh whenever I read sometimes.
Well, they knew how to read, and I didn't.
I will never be good at reading. I will probably be held back again.
It highlights the words to know where I am.
When it's reading, I see spaces between the words, and it's easy to focus on.
The first time I actually could read that book, I was proud of myself.
I was very proud of myself. Good job, Joey.
When technology and education come together, possibility becomes reality.
I want to read every book in here.
So those were some of the very first students that used this product. The other thing, though, that I'm actually going to tell this story because I thought, I'm actually in a group that'll appreciate it more than most, talking about dyslexic strengths. So that ad actually, that ran on television 2 years ago. And it ran on the Today Show and The View and a few other places. And when Microsoft makes something that's going to run on TV, they bring in something, it's called inside of Microsoft the Black Ops team. Like, they're the best advertising team. They make the Super Bowl commercials. Like, they're the best of creative people we can find. So when we were sitting in the room, that initial room, like brainstorming ideas, I met the Black Ops crew. They brought in like 10 people. And I was showing the Immersive Reader, talking about what is designed for it, et cetera. And a bunch of the people in that room started getting somewhat emotional when I was talking about it. And basically, they started talking. It turns out, I believe it was 8 out of 10 in that room were dyslexic. 8 of 10 of the best Black Ops creative, commercial makers. And they're like, we're going to make the best commercial. We're going all out on this. And so, no, it was amazing. It was great. And so I think that speaks to everything we're talking to here tonight. And this is the educator from Holly Springs, Lauren Pittman. She's talking about, she taught a lot of students dyslexia, dysgraphia, ADHD, 3rd and 4th grade combined. She started seeing reading speeds in her classroom go up dramatically. She had IEP for many of the students, and they were measuring reading speeds. And what we often see is it's the confidence plus the independence plus the technology, the positive feedback loop. I don't think we're claiming it's like magic technology and there's nothing else involved. It's more about the positive feedback loop. And we see this over and over again. We hear kids that have been frustrated for years, and now they're using, just like all their friends, they're not using specialized software. It's not the thing that the teacher can't quite figure out. It's like the main, I'm using Word. I'm using the browser. And we did a study with the British Dyslexia Association and the Knoll Hill School in UK. It's kind of like the Skank School, similar, but it's in the UK. And we saw that reading comprehension scores improved with many of the students. We have 8th grade students using this. We have 1st graders, kindergartners. We also have CIOs. I've gotten mails from CIOs and major corporations who are telling us how the tools that are now built into Word have made life a lot easier for them. And so it's something that we like to say it's going to grow up with you. Because when you graduate school, or you leave school, or you go to college or the workforce, we find many students don't take the tools maybe with them that help because they're either stigmatized or, oh, I can't remember what that thing was, or it's too expensive, or for whatever reason they don't bring it. Well, with things like Office, a lot of people use Office in the world. And so if I go to work and I can continue to use these products, it grows up with me through life, and I can just keep using it all the way. I don't have to worry about, I leave school and it's all gone. It's global, so it's used in all sorts of languages, all sorts of countries. We have a teacher from Senegal I just met in a very poor village in Senegal who was using these tools, and they were helping learn English. They were French-speaking, learning English. And this is a large-scale study we did, which is real RTI International, third-party study, in the general education population with 4th graders, 6th graders, 10th through 12th. And we saw that reading comprehension scores improved, writing improved, non-cognitive processes improved, and this is in the general education population. On average, 10% improvement with comprehension scores with 4th graders who've been using learning tools over a 3-month period. And everything's in this deck. This is a public deck, and so I'll have a link up if you want to take a picture later. Everything is available. Some great quotes, though. Learning tools and the Immersive Reader are empowering, allows them to feel more independent, not depending on the teacher, not depending on peers. And we hear that all the time. But for me, the best part of this study is this, back to universal design and inclusive design. Nearly all the study teachers mentioned how the Immersive Reader enabled their readers, regardless of skill level, to access content aimed at a higher reading level. So guess what? It's helping all students across the board. Yes, it's going to help dyslexic students, and yes, it'll help emerging readers, and yes, it'll help all sorts of people, including the general education population, which is the whole purpose of inclusive design. This chart here, there's no test on this chart. I put this chart in on purpose. It is an eye chart on purpose. This chart communicates Microsoft is building this across everything we do. This is called a tidal wave. If you're a poker player, this is called all in on inclusive technologies, reading, literacy, dyslexia. And I always like to say very explicitly, we're not stopping. So it's not like we're done. We're working with the top researchers, we're working with top dyslexia experts in the field, and we're going to keep building this into our mainstream products, and we're going to keep at it. So I just wanted to make sure that folks in this room got that message. The other thing we have is writing. So I'm not going to go too deep into writing, but I want to make sure on the writing side, because no one knows these things have been coming into our products. Word, PowerPoint, Outlook, OneNote, all have speech-to-text, dictation built in. Raise your hand if you knew that speech-to-text is built in across Office. Maybe 7, 8. Totally there today. So dictation in multiple languages. Dictate your emails, dictate in Word, dictate anywhere. Word prediction. Word prediction is built into Windows 10. You can turn on word prediction, like on your phone, where it predicts the words. Great with dysgraphia, and dyslexics will prefer that. We also have next-generation spell checking. So if I go here, you probably didn't think spell checkers changed much in the last 20 years. You'd referenced spell checking earlier. Well, in Word now, the spell checker has this brand new thing called Editor, which is next generation spell checker, and it is great for dyslexia, dysgraphia, and all human beings. It groups the spelling errors into a bunch of categories. So now if I click spelling, it highlights the word. If I hit the little arrow on the upper right, it jumps me through the document. So I can actually, instead of seeing 300 squiggly lines, it focuses and jumps. I've got read aloud for my spell errors, talking spell check. I got suggestions that I can read aloud and get context on every word. So simple things that most people might ignore, but dyslexia, dysgraphia, that's a big deal. Grammar error is the same thing. I can jump through the document, I can read them out loud, I can get suggestions that have read aloud built in. And then we have new things like clarity and conciseness. We have natural language processing to give new types of feedback on your document. Clarity and conciseness. Gender-neutral language, maybe you're saying policeman and fireman all the time, and then it'll say, oh, you should say firefighter or police officer. So there's a bunch of new categories that are rolling out into Editor that are just built in and help everyone with inclusive design, but they'll really help someone with dyslexia, dysgraphia, ADHD. The last thing I'm going to demo, and I'll wrap it up in a moment, but math gets talked about a little bit, but back to OneNote. So here I am in OneNote. OneNote supports digital inking, digital writing. And I'll just say it again, because people don't believe half the time. All this is free. So this is a free version of OneNote we're talking about here. I go to math, And first off, it converts the ink into an equation. That's nice. Now I select an action. So think about independence in helping me with math. I could say solve for R. That solves the equation. But I actually want to see the steps and understand what's happening. So I can say show steps using the quadratic formula. It'll actually work out all the steps here, and I can go through and look at that and practice and understand. And now you're saying, well, Mike, that looks super dense. If I have visual crowding and I'm trying to read words and numbers, that's going to be a pain. You're right. So there's a little Immersive Reader button there. So if I click Immersive Reader, everything goes right in the Immersive Reader, including equations. And if I want to focus on one line at a time, and this will read my equations out loud, now I can do everything I need to do. And this reads all sorts of complex equations depending on what you're doing. And if I want to get a picture dictionary on subtract, great, I can do that too.
Subtract.
So we talk about inclusive math, right? It could be dyslexia, dyscalculia, could be focusing, could be whatever. You could translate this stuff into other languages too. But the idea is, again, it's reading, writing, math. I'm not talking about communication today, but we have a lot of tools to help with English language learners. But the idea is we're building this into our mainstream products and making it available at scale. So I'll just close wrapping up here. This is Marlee Matlin. She's actually a deaf Academy Award-winning actress, but she came to Microsoft to talk about inclusion. I think it applies to everything we're talking about here. No one should have to ask for access. It should just be there. That means, hey, I need the expensive software. Hey, my teacher can't figure it out. Or hey, I'm super stigmatized. I don't want to do this because I'm embarrassed. Just be built in. Just should be part of the oxygen that you're breathing. And it's going to benefit everyone at that point. And so to close, just to recap, Microsoft, we're trying to enable students to grow their independence and their potential. We want to enable teachers to reach every learner. And then how can we help school systems and districts meet their inclusion and equity goals? And so with that, I will just leave this up here. That is the deck. Any teacher, any parent, any school leader, that's a public deck that's available that has everything I talked about and more, and details and reports. Reach out to me directly on email if you'd like, or if you use a Twitter, tweet right at me. I'm happy to tweet back. But happy to learn more and gather feedback in any way that we can help. I appreciate it. Thank you.